Lieutenant Jack Hartwell stood by the viewing port of the human spaceship Endeavour. He watched as the massive structure of Harmony Point grew larger. The space station looked like a giant metal flower with many petals spinning slowly to create gravity. Jack had never seen anything so beautiful or so alien. Impressive, isn't it? Ambassador Diane Powell joined him at the window. Her gray suit was perfectly pressed for their first meeting with the Galactic Confederation. "Yes, ma'am," Jack said. His hand moved to touch the sword hilt that wasn't there. After 15 years in the Marines and a lifetime of martial arts training, reaching for his sword had become a habit when he was nervous. But his katana was packed away for now. The diplomatic team had been clear that bringing weapons to first contact might send the wrong message. "Remember, Lieutenant," Powell said, "you're here as security and as a cultural representative. The Confederation has never met humans before. First impressions matter." Jack nodded. At 6'2" with broad shoulders and military short brown hair, he knew he looked the part of Earth's protector. What the aliens wouldn't know was that he had studied the way of the sword since he was 8 years old. "I understand, Ambassador. I'll be on my best behavior." The ship's captain announced they were docking. Jack took a deep breath. Humanity was about to join the galactic community. The welcoming area of Harmony Point was filled with different alien species. Jack tried not to stare, but it was hard. Some looked almost human with 2 arms and 2 legs. Others had tentacles or extra limbs or skin colors in every shade possible. A tall, thin alien with blue-gray skin stepped forward. "Welcome, Earth delegation. I am High Counselor Jen of the Galactic Confederation. We are pleased to finally meet the inhabitants of the planet you call Earth." Ambassador Powell smiled and gave the greeting they had practiced. "The people of Earth thank you for this welcome and look forward to peaceful relations with the Confederation." High Counselor Jen nodded and began introducing other officials. Jack stood behind the ambassador, scanning the room as he had been trained to do. His attention was caught by a group of aliens standing apart from the others. They wore what looked like armor, sleek and black with glowing blue lines. Each had a weapon at their side that resembled a sword handle without a blade. One of these warrior aliens was staring at Jack. This alien was taller than the others, with dark purple skin and yellow eyes. Jack nodded politely, but the alien's expression seemed to show disgust. After the formal greetings, the Earth delegation was invited to a welcome feast. As they moved through the station, Jack noticed that the gravity felt lighter than on Earth. He adjusted his steps to avoid bouncing with each footfall. At the feast, Jack was seated away from the ambassador at a table with what appeared to be military representatives from different species. The purple-skinned alien who had stared at him earlier sat directly across from him. "I am Commander Vrelk of the Zalaxian Defense Force," the alien said. His voice had a strange musical quality. "You appear to be a warrior of your kind." "Lieutenant Jack Hartwell, formerly of the United States Marine Corps," Jack replied using the practiced introduction, "now serving as security for Earth's diplomatic mission." Vrelk made a sound that Jack's translator interpreted as laughter. "Security? One of you to protect your entire delegation? Against what threat?" Jack kept his face neutral. "It's mostly ceremonial, Commander." Another Zolaxian warrior leaned forward. This one had lighter purple skin with black markings. "Is it true that humans evolved on a high-gravity death planet?" "I wouldn't call Earth a death planet," Jack said. "But our gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. I understand that's higher than most Confederation worlds." This caused all the Zolaxians to make that strange laughing sound again. Vrelk shook his head. "No wonder you're built like a stone pillar. How do you move with any grace under such crushing?" "Wait." Jack sipped his water, choosing his words carefully. "We manage." "What weapons do humans prefer?" asked a younger Zolaxian. "We have many types," Jack answered, "but I personally trained with the sword." This brought more laughter, louder than before. Vrelk actually slapped the table, which seemed to be a universal gesture of amusement. "A metal blade, like primitives?" Vrelk asked. "We abandoned such basic weapons 10,000 cycles ago." The commander touched the handle at his side, and a blade of blue energy appeared with a humming sound. It looked like solid light. "This is a modern warrior's weapon. It cuts through almost anything. and requires true skill to master. Jack nodded, respectfully. It's impressive technology. Technology is only part of it, said Vrelk, shutting off the energy blade. Zolaxians are natural warriors. We train from childhood in the combat arts. As do many humans, Jack said. Vrelk leaned forward. Yet you evolve on a world that crushes you down. How can you develop proper fighting form when your bodies are constantly fighting against your own planet? Before Jack could answer, a tone sounded and High Counselor Jen stood to make a speech. Jack was grateful for the interruption. The Zolaxians clearly thought humans were primitive, slow creatures from a brutal world. Maybe they were right. The rest of the feast was filled with speeches about peace and cooperation. Jack noticed that the other species seemed friendlier than the Zolaxians, asking questions about Earth with genuine curiosity rather than mockery. After the meal, an official named Gliss showed the Earth delegation to their quarters. We've prepared a special section for you, Gliss explained as they walked through the curving hallways. It's set to Earth standard gravity and atmosphere. That's very thoughtful, Ambassador Powell said. But we've prepared for Confederation standard conditions. Gliss looked uncomfortable. Yes, but most species find it extremely uncomfortable to live in Earth conditions. We call your world type a heavy planet. Most Confederation citizens would be crushed under your gravity. Jack realized that the lighter gravity he had felt wasn't just for the public areas. The entire station was set to much lower gravity than Earth normal. No wonder the Zolaxians moved so quickly and gracefully. We can adapt, Powell insisted. Part of this mission is to experience your way of life. Gliss seemed unsure but agreed to show them quarters in the regular residential section. As they walked, Jack felt eyes on them. Looking back, he saw Commander Vrelk and several Zolaxian warriors following at a distance, watching the humans with what looked like amusement. Don't mind the Zolaxians, Gliss said quietly. They serve as the Confederation's main defense force and think quite highly of themselves. They've never met a heavy planet species before. Jack nodded, understanding now. To these aliens, humans were curiosities from a harsh, brutal world. They didn't expect much from Deathworlders like them. As the Earth delegation settled into their new quarters, Jack unpacked his ceremonial sword and placed it carefully on the wall mount. He had a feeling he might need it before this diplomatic mission was over. Not as a weapon, but as a reminder of who he was and where he came from. Earth might be a death world to these aliens, but it had shaped humanity into something unique. Something these Zolaxian warriors didn't understand yet, but they would. A week passed on Harmony Point. The Earth delegation attended meetings every day, discussing trade, technology exchange, and the possibility of Earth joining the Galactic Confederation. Jack stood guard during these meetings, watching as Ambassador Powell spoke for humanity with grace and intelligence, but not all meetings went well. The Zolaxian representatives often made comments about Earth being primitive or humans being slow and heavy. Jack kept his face blank during these insults, but inside his anger grew. When not in meetings, Jack explored the space station. He found a large room where Zolaxian warriors practiced with their energy blades. He would stand in the doorway and watch their training sessions. The Zolaxians moved with incredible speed in the light gravity. Their fighting style involved lots of jumping, spinning, and quick strikes. Jack studied their movements carefully, noting their patterns and techniques. On the 8th day of their visit, Jack was watching the Zolaxians train when Commander Vrelk noticed him. "Lieutenant Hartwell," Vrelk called out, "do you enjoy watching real warriors train?" The other Zolaxians stopped their practice and turned to look at Jack. He stepped into the room, keeping his face calm. "I find your fighting style interesting," Jack said. A young Zolaxian with bright purple skin and green markings stepped forward. "Perhaps the human would like to show us his primitive sword skills." Vrelk smiled, showing pointed teeth. "Yes, Thrix has a good idea. You claim to be trained in sword fighting. We would be interested to see these Earth techniques." Jack knew he was being mocked, but he also saw an opportunity. "I would be happy to demonstrate if you have training weapons I could use." The Zolaxians looked surprised. Vrelk nodded slowly. We have practice blades that do not cut. They only leave a mark where they touch. Perfect, Jack said. Word spread quickly through the station that a human would be demonstrating fighting techniques. By the time Jack returned to his quarters, to change into more suitable clothes, messages were already coming in from the ambassador. Lieutenant, what are you doing? Powell's voice came through the communication system. I'm hearing rumors about some kind of fight. Not a fight, Ambassador, Jack explained as he put on a black t-shirt and loose pants. A demonstration. The Zolaxians have been looking down on humans since we arrived. This might help change their minds. Powell sighed. This is a diplomatic mission, Lieutenant. We're trying to make friends, not engage in combat sports. Sometimes respect is earned through shared interests, Jack said. In this case, martial arts. After a long pause, Powell spoke again. Don't make me regret bringing you, Lieutenant. No injuries, no incidents. Yes, ma'am. Jack took his personal katana from its mount on the wall. He wouldn't use it today, but touching the familiar handle helped center his mind as he prepared. The recreation deck had been transformed by the time Jack arrived. Training mats covered the floor in a large circle. Around this makeshift arena, aliens from many species had gathered to watch. Jack spotted Ambassador Powell standing with High Counselor Zhen and other officials. Thrix was already there, warming up with practice moves that made him look like he was dancing. His practice energy blade glowed with a soft blue light. Commander. Vrelk approached Jack. Here is your practice weapon, human. He handed Jack what looked like a metal rod. Jack took it and pressed a button on the handle. A dull gray energy blade appeared with a low hum. It was lighter than his katana and balanced differently, but he could work with it. The practice blade will leave a glowing mark on clothing or skin where it touches, Vrelk explained. First, to land 3 touches wins the demonstration. Jack nodded and stepped onto the mat. The crowd grew quiet as Vrelk moved to the center of the circle. Today we witness a cultural exchange, Vrelk announced. Thrix, a promising young warrior of the Zolaxian Defense Force, will demonstrate our fighting techniques against Lieutenant Jack Hartwell of Earth. Whispers ran through the crowd. Jack caught fragments of conversations as his translator worked. Poor human won't know what hit him. Too slow in those heavy bones. 3 touches? He'll be lucky to avoid serious injury. Jack took a deep breath and centered himself. The lower gravity made him feel light, almost bouncy. He would need to adjust his fighting style. Thrix stepped forward, spinning his practice blade in a fancy pattern. The crowd of aliens cheered at the display. Jack took a simple ready stance, blade held in both hands before him. Some aliens laughed at what they saw as a basic pose. Begin, Vrelk commanded. Thrix moved instantly, shooting forward with incredible speed. Jack barely had time to raise his blade before Thrix struck. The practice blade touched Jack's shoulder, leaving a glowing blue mark. First touch to Thrix, Vrelk announced as the Zolaxians cheered. Thrix jumped back, spinning his blade again. That was too easy, human. Perhaps you'd like to surrender now. Jack adjusted his stance. The match just started. Thrix attacked again, this time with a series of quick strikes. Jack focused on defense, blocking each blow. The sound of energy blades hitting each other filled the room with a buzzing noise. On the 5th strike, Jack didn't just block, he pushed back. The force of his parry sent vibrations through Thrix's blade. The young Zolaxian's eyes widened in surprise. Jack had been watching the Zolaxians all week. He knew they were fast but not physically strong. They had evolved on a low-gravity world and never needed to develop the muscle density of humans. Thrix jumped back, now looking more cautious. The crowd had grown quieter. You're stronger than you look, Thrix said. Jack didn't respond. He stepped forward, taking the offensive for the first time. His movements were slower than the Zolaxians, but each step was sure and controlled. Thrix darted to the side, trying to use his speed advantage. Jack pivoted, keeping his guard up. When Thrix lunged again, Jack was ready. He parried the blow and stepped into Thrix's space. Using the Zolaxian's momentum against him, Jack brought his practice blade around in a smooth arc. It touched Thrix's side, leaving a glowing mark. Touch for the human, Vrelk announced, sounding surprised. The room fell silent. Even Ambassador Powell looked shocked. Thrix backed away, his expression changing from confidence to concern. Luck, he muttered, but he didn't sound convinced. The match continued. Thrix attacked with greater caution now, testing Jack's defenses. Jack remained patient, using minimal movement and conserving his energy. What is this style called? Thrix asked as they circled each other. This is based on Kendo and Iaido, Jack said. Japanese sword arts from Earth, they're over 1,000 years old. You fight with ancient techniques? Thrix sounded confused. Some principles of combat never change, Jack replied. Thrix launched another attack, this time with a complex series of feints. Jack read the pattern and blocked most strikes, but Thrix's speed allowed him to slip past Jack's guard. The practice, blade touched Jack's leg. Second touch to Thrix, Vrelk called out. The Zalaxians cheered again, but with less mockery than before. Jack nodded respectfully to Thrix. One more touch, and the Zalaxian would win. Jack needed to use everything he had learned. When Thrix attacked again, Jack didn't try to match his speed. Instead, he planted his feet firmly and used his core strength, developed under Earth's powerful gravity, to hold his ground. As Thrix's blade came toward him, Jack turned his body slightly. The energy blade missed by inches. Before Thrix could recover, Jack countered with a powerful strike that caught the Zalaxian across the chest. Second touch to the human, Vrelk announced. The score was now tied. The final exchange would determine the winner. The crowd was fully engaged now, with aliens from all species watching closely. Jack and Thrix faced each other in the center of the mat. The recreation deck was completely silent as everyone waited for the final clash. Sweat ran down Jack's face, but his hands were steady on the practice blade. Across from him, Thrix's purple skin had darkened with exertion. You fight well, human, Thrix said quietly. But I will not lose. Jack gave a small nod of respect. May the best warrior win. The recreation deck was silent. Everyone watched Jack and Thrix face each other for the final exchange. 2 touches each. The next touch would decide the winner. Jack breathed deeply and slowly. He had learned much during this match. The Zalaxians were incredibly fast and agile in the station's light gravity, but they lacked power behind their strikes. They had never needed to build the kind of strength humans developed on Earth. Thrix began to circle to the left. His eyes never left Jack. The young Zalaxian was taking this match seriously now. The mockery from earlier was gone. Commander Vrelk, Jack called out, not taking his eyes off Thrix. I would like to request something. Vrelk stepped closer to the mat. What is it, human? I would like to use my own sword for this final exchange, Jack said. Not to strike with, but to show you a true Earth technique. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Vrelk looked uncertain. Your metal blade against our practice energy blades? That would not be fair. I won't attack with it, Jack promised. I only want to demonstrate something. Ambassador Powell stepped forward. Lieutenant, is this necessary? Jack nodded. I think it's important, Ambassador. After a moment of consideration, Vrelk agreed. Very well, but the rules remain the same. First touch wins. A crew member was sent to fetch Jack's katana from his quarters. While they waited, Jack and Thrix remained in their positions, studying each other. Why do you want your primitive weapon? Thrix asked. To show you something about Earth and humans, Jack replied. When the crew member returned with the katana in its black sheath, Jack bowed slightly to Thrix and walked to the edge of the mat. He took the sword and returned to the center. The katana was beautiful in its simplicity. The handle was wrapped in black and gold cord. The blade remained hidden in its sheath. Jack held it at his side in his left hand, while keeping the practice energy blade in his right. Ready, he said. Thrix nodded, settling into his fighting stance with his practice blade glowing before him. Begin, Vrelk commanded. This time, Jack moved first. He stepped forward smoothly. In one fluid motion, he dropped the practice energy blade and gripped his katana with both hands. Thrix darted to the side, expecting a direct attack, but Jack didn't chase him. Instead, he stood in the center of the mat, his feet planted firmly, the sheathed katana held at his left hip. The crowd watched in confusion. Thrix circled cautiously, looking for an opening. "Are you going to fight?" Thrix asked. "I am fighting," Jack replied calmly. "This is Iaido, the art of drawing the sword." Thrix frowned, then attacked with blinding speed. He lunged forward, his practice blade aimed at Jack's chest. What happened next amazed everyone watching. Jack's hands moved so fast they blurred. In one perfect motion, he drew the katana from its sheath, deflected Thrix's attack, and brought the back of his blade to rest gently against the Zolaxian's neck. The entire movement took less than a second. Thrix froze, his eyes wide. The practice energy blade hummed inches from Jack's side, never having made contact. The room was completely silent. Then Commander Vrelk spoke. "Touch to the human," he said quietly. "Lieutenant Hartwell wins the match." Jack stepped back and bowed to Thrix. Then he carefully slid his katana back into its sheath. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then Ambassador Powell began to clap. Slowly, others joined in until the entire recreation deck filled with applause. Thrix bowed deeply to Jack. "I have never seen such speed," he said. "How is this possible from a high-gravity species?" Jack smiled. "That move took me 10 years to perfect. Thousands of hours of practice every day until it became part of me." Commander Vrelk approached them. His expression was thoughtful as he looked at Jack's sheathed katana. "Your blade never touched him," Vrelk observed. "Yet your control was perfect. If that had been a real fight—" "It wasn't a real fight," Jack said firmly. "It was a demonstration, as I promised." Vrelk nodded slowly. "Indeed. And you have demonstrated much, Lieutenant Hartwell." The crowd began to disperse, aliens talking excitedly about what they had seen. Ambassador Powell made her way to Jack's side. "Well done, Lieutenant," she said quietly. "Though next time, perhaps warn me before you decide to show off." Jack smiled. "Yes, ma'am." As they walked back toward the diplomatic quarters, Jack noticed that the aliens they passed looked at him differently now. There was curiosity in their gazes and something else. Respect. Later that evening, Jack was surprised by a visitor. Commander Vrelk requested entry to his quarters. "Commander," Jack said, inviting him in. "What can I do for you?" Vrelk looked around the room, his eyes lingering on the katana now back in its stand on the wall. "I came to apologize," Vrelk said. This clearly wasn't easy for him. "I misjudged you and your species." Jack nodded, accepting the apology without comment. "How long have your people had sword-fighting arts?" Vrelk asked. "Thousands of years," Jack replied. "Almost every culture on Earth developed some form of bladed combat." Vrelk looked surprised. "Even though you have advanced weapons?" "The sword is special to us," Jack explained. "It's more than a weapon. It represents discipline, tradition, and honor." Vrelk was silent for a moment. "The move you performed today, the drawing of your sword, it was not just about speed, was it?" Jack shook his head. "Iaido teaches that the perfect cut happens in one motion, drawing, striking, and resheathing. Economy of movement. No wasted energy. When you live on a world with crushing gravity, you learn not to waste effort." "I see," Vrelk said thoughtfully. "Your world shaped you in ways I did not understand." "Earth is harsh by your standards," Jack acknowledged. "But it's our home, it made us strong." Vrelk looked at Jack with new eyes. Perhaps the Zolaxian Defense Force could learn from Earth's fighting traditions. And perhaps humans could learn from yours," Jack replied. "Your speed and agility are remarkable." A slow smile spread across Vrelk's face. "Tomorrow, after the diplomatic meetings, would you be willing to show me and some of my warriors more of your sword techniques?" Jack smiled back. "I'd be honored, Commander." After Vrelk left, Jack sat on his bed and looked at his katana. He thought about Earth, so far away now. He thought about his teachers and all the hours he had spent training. He had never imagined his sword skills would help forge Earth's first connection with alien species. The next morning, The mood at the diplomatic meetings had changed. The Zalaxian representatives were respectful, even friendly. Ambassador Powell shot Jack a grateful look as the discussions moved forward more productively than ever before. During a break, High Counselor Jen approached Jack. "Lieutenant Hartwell," the counselor said, "I hear you made quite an impression yesterday." "I hope it was a positive one," Jack replied. "Indeed," Jen said, "most species in the Confederation evolved on worlds much gentler than Earth. We tend to view high-gravity planets as harsh and primitive. But perhaps we have been missing something important." Jack nodded. "Different environments create different strengths." "Precisely," said Jen. "The Confederation needs diversity to thrive. Earth may bring perspectives and abilities we have not seen before." As the meeting resumed, Jack stood at his post with a new sense of purpose. His small demonstration had opened doors. Earth's path to joining the Galactic Confederation looked much clearer now, and it had all started with a sword. The day after the match, Jack arrived at the training area with his katana. 6 Zalaxian warriors waited for him, including Commander Vrelk and Thrix. They all bowed as Jack entered, a sign of respect he hadn't seen before. "Lieutenant Hartwell," Vrelk said, "these are my top warriors. They are eager to learn about Earth fighting techniques." Jack bowed back. "I'm happy to share what I know." He started by showing them basic stances. The Zalaxians copied his movements, their bodies naturally, more flexible than his. Jack walked among them, gently correcting their positions. "Your feet need to be more grounded," he told Thrix. "Imagine you are sending roots into the floor." "But that slows movement," Thrix said, confused. "Sometimes you need stability more than speed," Jack explained. "On Earth, we have to work with gravity, not against it." As they practiced, Jack noticed others gathering to watch. Aliens from different species stood in the doorway, curious about the human teachings Zalaxian warriors. After an hour of basic movements, Vrelk approached Jack. "May I ask a question that has been bothering me?" "Of course," Jack said. "Yesterday, when you performed that drawing technique, if we had been using real weapons, would your blade have cut through my energy field?" Jack considered his answer carefully. "I don't know. Our metals are forged under high pressure. Some Earth alloys might resist an energy blade. We would need to test it." Vrelk nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps one day we will. In a controlled setting, of course." After the training session, Jack was surprised to find Ambassador Powell waiting for him in the hallway. "You've become quite popular, Lieutenant," she said with a small smile. "Just sharing some culture, ma'am," Jack replied. "Well, your cultural exchange has had an interesting effect. High Counselor Jen has invited us to a special session of the Confederation Council tomorrow. They want to discuss Earth's potential membership." Jack raised his eyebrows. "That's ahead of schedule, isn't it?" "By weeks," Powell confirmed. "Whatever you did in that training room has changed minds. Keep it up." The next morning, Jack put on his formal marine dress uniform. The dark blue jacket with its red trim and gold buttons was designed to impress. As he fastened the last button, he thought about how far they had come in just a few days. The Confederation Council chamber was a large, circular room with raised seats around the edges. In the center was a platform where speakers could address the Council. Jack stood behind Ambassador Powell as High Counselor Jen called the meeting to order. "Honored representatives," Jen began, "we are here to discuss the application of Earth to join the Galactic Confederation. Ambassador Powell will speak on behalf of humanity." Powell stepped forward onto the central platform. Her voice was clear and strong as she spoke about Earth's history, its diverse cultures, and its desire to join the galactic community as a peaceful member. When she finished, Council members began to ask questions. Most were respectful, but a few showed the old prejudice against Deathworlders. A representative from a species called the Malorians leaned forward. "How can we trust beings evolved for violence? Your planet's high gravity and harsh conditions surely make humans naturally aggressive." Before Powell could answer, Commander Vrelk stood up. "If I may address this concern?" Jen nodded, looking curious. "I have spent time with Lieutenant Hartwell studying Earth's martial traditions," Vrelk said. What I discovered was not mindless aggression, but discipline and control. Their harsh world did not make them violent. It taught them restraint. Murmurs ran through the chamber as other representatives considered this. Would the human be willing to demonstrate? Asked another counselor. All eyes turned to Jack. Ambassador Powell looked back at him with a questioning glance. Jack nodded slightly. Lieutenant Hartwell would be honored, Powell said. Jack stepped forward onto the platform. He had brought his katana, sensing it might be needed today. What would you like to see? He asked the council. Show us this control Commander Vrelk speaks of, said the Malorian representative. Jack thought for a moment, then had an idea. Commander Vrelk, would you assist me? Vrelk looked surprised but came down to the platform. Jack asked him to hold out his arm. I will demonstrate a cutting technique, Jack explained to the council. The blade will pass within a hair's width of the commander's arm without touching him. A nervous murmur went through the chamber. Vrelk looked uncertain but held his arm steady. Jack drew his katana slowly, letting everyone see the polished steel blade. Then he took his stance, focusing completely. The room fell silent. In one smooth motion, Jack swung the katana. The blade flashed in the light as it passed just above Vrelk's purple skin, so close that the commander could feel the air move, but not a single cell was touched. Jack completed the cut and resheathed his sword in one continuous movement. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Vrelk spoke. Perfect control. Not aggression, but mastery. He turned to the council. This is what Earth offers us, not a threat, but a new strength. The council members began to talk among themselves. High Counselor Jen raised a hand for silence. I believe we have seen enough, Jen said. Let us vote on Earth's provisional membership. The vote was taken, with representatives pressing buttons on their consoles. A large display showed the results. 37 in favor, 5 against, 3 abstaining. The motion passes, Jen announced. Earth is granted provisional membership in the Galactic Confederation, with full membership to be decided after a probationary period of 1 standard cycle. Ambassador Powell's face showed her joy and relief. She stepped forward to accept the formal declaration from Jen. As the meeting ended, many council members came down to meet Jack and Powell. The atmosphere was friendly and curious. Even the Malorian representative approached Jack. I voted against, he admitted, but I am willing to learn more about humans. Perhaps my fears are unfounded. I would be happy to show you more of Earth's culture, Jack said. Later, in the diplomatic quarters, the Earth delegation celebrated. Powell raised a glass to Jack. To our unexpected cultural ambassador, she said. Who would have thought a sword would open so many doors? Jack smiled. Sometimes, the oldest tools are the best ones. A message came through on their communication system. It was from Commander Vrelk, inviting Jack to join the Zalaxian warriors for a celebration of their own. Go, Powell encouraged him. Build those bridges. Jack changed into more casual clothes and made his way to the Zalaxian quarters. He was welcomed with cheers and friendly slaps on the back. Thrix offered him a drink in a ceremonial cup. This is Quast, Thrix explained. Our traditional celebration drink. Jack sipped carefully. It tasted sweet and spicy at the same time. We have something similar on Earth, Jack said. We call it mead. Vrelk raised his cup. To Earth and the Zolaxian Defense Force, may we learn from each other. Everyone drank. Jack felt a warm sense of accomplishment. His small demonstration had helped change minds and open hearts. As the celebration continued, Jack found himself thinking about what this meant for humanity. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. They had found their place among the stars, and it had started with a sword, a symbol of Earth's long journey from primitive warriors to a united world ready to join the galactic community. Jack raised his cup again. To new friendships, he said. To new friendships, the Zolaxians echoed. 3 weeks had passed since Earth was granted provisional membership in the Galactic Confederation. The Earth delegation had settled into life on Harmony Point, and preparations were being made for more humans to arrive. Jack's days fell into a new routine. Mornings were spent guarding Ambassador Powell during diplomatic meetings. Afternoons were dedicated to training sessions with the Zalaxian warriors. Word had spread, and now warriors from other species sometimes joined these sessions too. Jack had learned much about the Zalaxians and their culture. They valued honor and skill in battle, but they had never faced the kind of physical challenges that Earth presented. Their evolution on a low-gravity world made them naturally fast and agile, but they lacked the raw strength and endurance that humans took for granted. One afternoon, as Jack was demonstrating different sword grips to a group of 20 warriors, he noticed Commander Vrelk watching from the doorway with a serious expression. When the session ended, Vrelk approached him. "Lieutenant, may I speak with you privately?" Jack nodded, and they walked to a quiet corner of the training area. "We've received troubling news," Vrelk said in a low voice. "A Draxian raiding party has been spotted near this sector." "Draxians?" Jack asked. "They are not part of the Confederation," Vrelk explained. "They're pirates who attack stations and ships, stealing resources and technology. They're extremely dangerous." Jack frowned. "Has Harmony Point ever been attacked before?" "No. We're usually well protected, but our main defense fleet is currently in another sector dealing with a spatial anomaly." Vrelk looked genuinely worried. "The station has basic defenses, but if the Draxians come in force..." "What can I do to help?" Jack asked without hesitation. Vrelk seemed relieved by Jack's response. "I'm organizing all warriors on the station into defense units. Would you join my command team? Your perspective might be valuable." "Of course," Jack said. "I should inform Ambassador Powell." "Already done," Vrelk said. "She agreed to lend us your expertise." The next day, Jack joined Vrelk and other senior warriors in a secure room. A holographic display showed Harmony Point and the surrounding space. "Our scouts report at least 6 Draxian ships approaching," a Zalaxian officer reported. "Estimated arrival in 22 hours. "What are our defenses?" Jack asked. Vrelk gestured to the hologram. "Energy shields, some automated defense systems, and about 100 trained warriors from various species." Jack studied the station layout. "What about evacuation plans?" "There are emergency shuttles, but not enough for everyone," Vrelk said grimly. "And the Draxians would likely target fleeing ships first." Jack thought for a moment. "On Earth, we have a saying, the best defense is a good offense." Vrelk looked interested. "Explain." "Instead of waiting for them to attack, we could surprise them," Jack suggested. "Do we have any small fast ships?" "Scout vessels," Vrelk confirmed. "Lightly armed but very maneuverable." "Perfect," Jack said. He pointed to different areas on the hologram. "If we position scout ships here, and here, hidden behind these larger asteroids, we could ambush the Draxian ships when they approach." The other warriors looked skeptical. A senior Zalaxian named Krek spoke up. "Our scouts aren't battle vessels. They would be destroyed quickly." "Not if they don't aim to destroy the Draxian ships," Jack explained. "Just disable their engines and weapons. Hit-and-run tactics." Jack spent the next hour outlining his plan. Slowly, the other warriors began to see its potential. Using Earth military strategies adapted for space, they developed an ambush that might work. "This is very different from our usual tactics," Vrelk admitted. "But sometimes new challenges require new approaches." For the next 20 hours, they prepared. Jack worked with scout pilots, teaching them Earth naval tactics modified for space combat. Meanwhile, Vrelk organized the station's defenses in case the ambush failed. As the time of the Draxian arrival grew near, Jack found himself in the control room with Vrelk and High Counselor Zhen, watching the holographic display. 6 scout ships were hidden in position, crewed by the most skilled pilots. "They're entering the system," an officer reported. Everyone watched as 6 red dots appeared on the hologram, moving steadily toward Harmony Point. "The Draxian ships are larger than we expected," someone said nervously. Jack stayed calm. "Size can be a disadvantage. Larger ships are less maneuverable." When the Draxian vessels passed the first set of asteroids, Vrelk gave the command. "Execute ambush pattern." 2 scout ships darted out from hiding, firing precision shots at the lead Draxian ship. They targeted engines and weapon systems just as Jack had suggested. Before the Draxians could respond, the scouts had disappeared behind other asteroids. First target shows engine damage, an officer reported with excitement. Their speed is reduced by 40%. The ambush continued. Each scout ship struck, quickly then retreated. The Draxian formation began to break as they tried to chase the nimble scouts. "It's working," Vrelk said, sounding surprised. Jack nodded. Divide and conquer, another Earth strategy. Within an hour, the Draxian raid had turned into a retreat. 4 of their ships had sustained significant damage. The other 2 were trying to help their damaged companions escape the system. As the red dots moved away from Harmony Point, cheers erupted in the control room. Vrelk placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "Your Earth strategies saved many lives today," he said. High Counselor Zhen approached them. "Indeed, the Council will hear of this." 3 days later, Jack stood again in the Council chamber. This time he wore his full dress uniform with all his medals. Ambassador Powell stood beside him, beaming with pride. High Counselor Zhen addressed the assembled representatives. "In light of recent events, the Council has called an emergency vote. The Earth delegation has proven not only their cultural value, but their tactical value to the Confederation." Zhen turned to Jack and Powell. "Lieutenant Hartwell's Earth military strategies helped defend Harmony Point without a single casualty on our side. This demonstration of both skill and restraint has impressed us all. The Council voted unanimously to upgrade Earth's status from provisional to full membership in the Galactic Confederation, waiving the usual probationary period." As Jack and Powell left the chamber, they were met by Commander Vrelk and Thrix, both wearing ceremonial Zalaxian armor. "The Zalaxian Defense Force would like to propose a formal exchange program," Vrelk said. "We would send warriors to Earth to learn your fighting arts, and Earth could send trainers to our homeworld." Powell looked at Jack, who nodded enthusiastically. "We would be honored," Powell said. Later that evening, Jack stood at a viewing port, looking out at the stars. He thought about how much had changed since their arrival. From being mocked as primitive Deathworlders, humans were now respected members of the galactic community. Thrix joined him at the window. "What are you thinking about, Jack?" "About how first impressions aren't always accurate," Jack replied. "And about how different paths can lead to the same destination." Thrix nodded thoughtfully. "Your Earth saying about the sword." "The pen is mightier than the sword?" Jack asked. "No, the other one about judging books by their covers." Jack smiled. "Never judge a book by its cover." "Yes, that one," Thrix said. "I think the Confederation made that mistake with humans. We saw only your tough exterior, not the wisdom and discipline inside. And we have much to learn from you as well," Jack said. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Earth had found its place in the galaxy, and Jack had helped build the bridge between worlds with a sword.